Hi, I'm Christopher Dean, and welcome to part 7 of a tutorial series where we build a design system in Sketch. This week we're doing form components. Okay, and let's get straight into what we're going to cover in this part. Obviously forms, but we're going to create this basic set of form components, which is an input text with a label, text area with label, select, option, placeholder and entered text versions for each one. But that just means we're going to put two text elements in there and you can put a space in either one of them to turn each of them on or off. Then radio and checkboxes and error text and styles for all of them. So that's when you validate a form and you get a red keyline around your element and then a little bit of validation text underneath it. That's what that is. Let's jump into abstract. Up the top right, go new branch, add forms, go up to the top right again and go edit and sketch. And looking at the buttons artboard, we can probably fit everything onto it. So let's just turn on our layer, grid and guides. Yeah, change the name of this from buttons to buttons and forms. Change H1 to button and forms. Capital F. Change action to buttons. Duplicate it. Select the one underneath it and drag it down to around here and rename this forms. Okay, the buttons are 2 columns wide. We're going to make the form components 3 columns wide. So let's grab our rectangle tool by selecting R, or in your toolbar if you set it up, selecting a rectangle and then drag it out so it's 3 columns wide and 48 high. But sitting next to a button, you want it to be the same height. Okay, what style are we going to give this? Let's go to shape, line black, maybe line gray 2, 1 pixel center. Make the corners around 4. But again, just like when we set up the buttons, we've got a style that is the center line, but not an inside line. So let's go back to the styles. And this is one I'm sure you saw last time that I need to fix. So let's turn it back to line black 4 pixel center. Okay, grab this, go over to gray 2, paste it in there and line it up. Change its color to gray 2 and its shared style to gray 2. Let's just have a look at the names of these. Okay, that's still all right. Before we get into creating the rest of the forms, we're going to need 2 utility colors. One's going to be red and one's going to be green. So let's create those. Go up to secondary 4 and duplicate it. Let's change its color to red. So pull this all the way over to the left and then all the way up to the top right. Let's rename this utility red and then change the size. So we're going to use half its size, and in Sketch you can do a /2 and get 104 and a /2 and get 60. So you can do maths in any of those fields. Let's just clean up the height. So it's actually 104 by 56. And duplicate it again, move it down, change this to utility green. That'll be for success coloring and messaging. Select this green. We can change these later on, so let's just go with a basic red and green you can make in Sketch. And now we need to give them their shared styles. So color, utility red. That's misspelled, isn't it? Let's go in here and respell it. There we go. Change this to utility green. Let's place those in our document colors. Okay, and if we go back to our line styles, we're going to need a bit of room. So let's move surfaces over 2 columns. Tidy that up, move these 3 down, and these 2 over. Go up to the last secondary 4 lines and duplicate them. Rename that folder utility red, move it over, duplicate it again, move it over again, and rename this one utility green. Now let's move in, select all of the new duplicated ones and change them to red. Select these and change them to green. Then set up their shared styles. Let's copy and paste that. Do the same for utility green. Copy utility green and update the other 2. Duplicate that rectangle, paste it into the utility red lines, move it down, copy and paste it into the utility green. Just clean up the order of these layers. Change the border color of this one to red. Change the border color of this one to green. Change its layer style. To utility red for this one. And utility green for that one. All right. Okay, so now we're covered for utility red and utility green. We need placeholder text. And that means we're going to have to create some grade 2 versions of paragraph. So let's select all of these and move them down, get them out of the way. Duplicate paragraph, move that down, change them all to grade 2, and then change their shared style name. And in grade 2 instead of black, do that for center and right as well. Okay, we should be ready to actually make a form element. That would be nice, wouldn't it? So let's go back to this one. Zoom right in, change its style from line grade 2, 1 pixel to inside. Great, let's add some text. Type placeholder. Change it to DTP, grade 2, left. Turn on our grid. Now you're going to want to make sure it's 16 pixels from the left. And you can do that by selecting the element, holding down Option, and then moving over to the element. So Sketch will give you the measurement between elements if you hold down Alt and move your mouse around. Just like that. Okay, go back to the text, stretch it out all the way over to 296 wide. Zoom out. Change the resizing to left and right and fixed height. Change resize for the rectangle to left, top, right, and down. Select both of those elements and group them. Move them to the top. And let's go grab the first name from the list we saw before. Form / input text / default. Let's copy it. Enter that here and make a symbol by going to the top left, hitting create symbol. Let's go grab it and bring it back. It'll be all the way over to the top right of your artboards. Position it over the symbol we just made. Move those 2 layers out of that folder. Delete it. Rename rectangle to field. Let's just nudge it up. Select the one underneath it, nudge it back down. And here we go. We should have, if we select adjust content on resize, a responsive form field. Now we want placeholder text as well as entered text. So I'm going to duplicate the placeholder text layer, rename it to text, turn off placeholder, enter text, and change it back to black. Let's turn placeholder back on. Turn off our grid. Form input text default. Place it. And to turn off the placeholder text, we would just add a space over here in the overrides. To turn off text, we do the same thing. And then we can enter something like enter your first name. And that's behaving nicely as well. Okay. Ooh, what's happening there? Let's go back into it. Select the layout options for both of them and select the top one. So what that does is allow us to use one symbol for the input text and the text area if we wanted to. By just dragging that down. Let's delete this. And what do we have next? The error state. Let's go back and duplicate it and drag it over to there. We're going to select the rectangle and change it to shape line utility red inside. Let's rename it error. The text inside of it can stay the same because we're going to add validation text underneath it when we make the version of an input text field with a label. So let's duplicate this one, move it down, change it to just input text, select the top layer and add this symbol that we just made, so form input text default. Delete all the other layers, move that down to about there, turn off adjust content on resize and then change its height to about 114. Copy that text up there, select the symbol that we just placed in and then move it to here. Duplicate it again, move it underneath the field. Okay, that's not 114, that's actually going to be 112. Change the error text to red. It looks like the error text might be too big. So let's go to DTP small primary left. That's the wrong color, isn't it? So once again, we have to go update a style. Let's select all of these from a label down to a hover. Move them down, select the ones underneath them, move them down. Just to tidy everything up, we're going to have to move everything else down too as well. Grab P small, duplicate it, move it down. Move that one down to get it out of the way. And that's right. Select all three, change it to utility red, and then update the textile name. Utility pred, red. Let's select utility red, copy it, and update it for the other two. Let's go back to the field. Select that text and change it to DTP P small utility red left. Okay, turn the grid off on that one. Move this down. Let's turn off everything, our guides and our layout settings. We're going to select the top text and change it to label. And its layer name and the text itself. Select the bottom one and change it to error. Rename this symbol just input text. Okay, and let's see what we can do. Select the form heading, so we're back on that artboard. Add form input text. Go up to the label. Resize it all the way across. Go to the error and resize that all the way across. Now the resizing on label looks okay. We're going to change the resizing on error from top to bottom. Now when we go back to the symbol, everything should behave. And look at that. Okay, now if we go over to the label, we can have something like first name. The error, we can put a space to turn it off. And we can put a space in text to turn that off. So we've got a basic form field with a label. Let's select it again. Change input text to input text error. Now we've got validation, and an error we're going to have, please fill in this field. So we made a nested symbol that can do two different things, a default and an error state, also show placeholder text and entered text, as well as a validated error. Cool. Let's delete it. Just save where we're at. All right, next up is text area, and we're going to reuse the input text /default and /error symbols in the text area one. So let's duplicate the input text symbol, move it down. Let's go up and turn everything on so we can line everything up nicely. Move that to about there. Change its name to text area. Turn off adjust content on resize and resize it to about 216. Move the error text down to about there. And then grab the input text symbol and scale it to 144. All right, let's see if that worked. Text area. Place it, scale it, change this to message, add a space in text, turn off error, add this is my message, turn off placeholder, or add no text, turn them both off, and in the error line, let's add please add a message. And change this to error. Okay, now we've got select, which is a drop-down box. Now we could make this a nested symbol and add a symbol for like a down arrow or an up arrow into it, but let's keep them separate. Let's turn on our guides. Duplicate the first one, move it down to here. Move it into place. Change its name to form. Select default. Let's actually move it out of the way of this and move text area over. And then move it up to here. Leave text and remove placeholder. Change this to option. just going to draw a down arrow. And since we're doing iconography in part 8, I'm going to make a symbol here, but forget what you just saw. All right, let's go. We're going to select the pen tool. Go over to where it looks like the points intersect. Hold down Shift. Go down to there, and then back up to here. All right, so we go up here and select Edit the individual points. Drag them into place. And you can snap them here by doing that. That one was pretty close. Change its shape style to line black, 1 pixel center. Add a rectangle around it. That's a square. Move that below it. Select both of them. Center vertically and horizontally. Okay, we're going to need a bounding box, which is basically an invisible box of something. Yeah, that sounds good, doesn't it? Let's change this to color white. Take its opacity down to 0. And we'll call this one bounding box. I think that should be in shapes. So let's go to Organize Layer Styles. Find it. Change this to shape and this to surface. Scroll all the way to the bottom. And add a / there. All right. Okay. Let's select these two, group them. Add icon / 24 for its size, / icon again, and then arrow, D, / black. And we might change that a little bit later, but what we're basically seeing there is I'm an icon, I'm 24 pixels, I'm the icon, that's the arrow, the down arrow, and I'm a black icon. Okay, select it and create symbol. You thought I was going to bring it back over, don't you? But I'm going to leave it there until we do iconography. Let's come back. Move it into place. Change the width of the option text. So it's at 264 wide and away from the icon. Select the icon and change resizing settings to right, and then fixed width and fixed height. What's going to happen there if we turn on adjust content on resize is the icon will move along with the right hand side of your field. Okay. Let's duplicate that symbol. Change this to arrow U for up. Let's go in and clean up their layers. Delete those folders. Change this to bounding box on both of those rectangles. There we go. Now, if you zoom in and go over to the right-hand side, you can flip this in the options panel by selecting this. Okay, now we go into Layer, Combine, flatten. Then we go up to scissors and remove that point. Okay, I don't want that top point to be sharp, so we're going to have to change a lot of line styles, aren't we? Here we go. Select all the lines, including the whites. Make sure they're all selected. Yep. Go over to borders and hit that little cog and change this from sharp joins to round joins, and then update all of them. Just say where we're at, go back to the field. Go over to the symbols, and that's fixed it. Now if we go back to that select field, and place it here, in the overrides panel, we can change the icon from down when it's closed to up when it's open. Let's reset that. Delete this. Turn on all of our guides, duplicate this, move it over, change its name to error from default. And change its shape color to utility red 1 pixel inside. And now we've got the default option and the error option as well. But what about when it's open? You're going to need some options when the select box or the drop down is actually open. So let's duplicate this one, move it down, remove the arrow, change its height to about 176. Select the background rectangle and change it to shape, surface, level 3. Grab option and duplicate it. Move it down, duplicate it again. Got to make sure these are ordered from the top down, so let's move this one here and this one here. Duplicate it again, move it down, give them all some space, and then the fifth one. Alright, we need to increase that a bit. Okay, this is going to be option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4, and option 5. Let's rename them here as well in the layers panel. Rearrange them. Change them all to P gray 2 left. Select one of them and change it back to black. Select it and change its name from select/default to form/option. We're going to duplicate form/input text again. Bring it over to here. Rename it to input select. Replace input text with form select default. delete input text, change this to select. So you've got label, select, error. Turn off adjust content on resize. Move this to where it's going to be as high as the label. And then place form option right underneath the select field. Okay, change the height to about 280. Rename that option. So we get label, select, option, error. Okay, turn off option for a moment. Move error down. Turn on option. Make sure that error is about there. Resize it again to 304. Okay, and I'll show you why you're going to do that. Let's turn off all of our guides. Okay, let's go place it into our artboard by selecting select. And this is the most complex symbol we're going to make for a while. We're going to turn off option. Resize it. Ooh, and it broke. So let's go back into it. Make sure everything is positioned properly. This one should be left, top, right, fixed height. This one should be left, top, right, fixed height. Okay. Resize it again. That's better. To 120. Let's change the label to order by. Change option to price. Turn error off. Change the arrow to the up arrow. Turn on option. Scale it back down. Change option 3 to price, because that's already what's selected up here. Change option 1 to latest. Option 2 to oldest. Option 4 to something like ascending. And option 5 to descending. So you can play around with those options, but it's basically what you might see in an e-commerce order by select box. Let's reset everything by deleting it. Let's make sure all of these are ordered actually. And this one. All right, those arrows are at the top. I'm going to go back to the select box actually and just call this icon. So it's cleaner in your overrides panel. All right, somebody's drilling upstairs. It's not happening all the time, but it's enough to end up in the microphone. So let's take a break here. I'm going to head home and we'll finish up there. Bye. Okay, I'm back home and let's make the radio buttons and checkboxes. To make things easy, I'm just going to grab all of this text, bring it over to our main sketch file, get rid of the ones we've already done. Just keep this here so it's a bit handy for this next step. Let's select the form select one and hit O for oval. Draw out a circle that's 32 by 32. Move it down a little bit. Give it the shape style of line gray, 1 pixel inside. Group it. And come out and grab the name form/radio/inactive. Convert that into a symbol. Let's go and grab this one and bring it back. Rename oval to radio. And move it on top of form/select. Let's duplicate it. Place it 16 pixels away from the other one. Call this one default. So this is a radio button that hasn't been selected yet. Change its line style to line black, 1 pixel inside. Duplicate this again. And name it selected. Yep. I'm going to grab the oval tool again and draw another circle. Let's start with 16 by 16 or 12 by 12 actually. Let's try that. Change this to color primary, 100%. I'm going to duplicate this one. Delete the oval inside of it and change its shape and line color to line utility red, 1 pixel inside. And rename this error. So we have an active, default, selected, and error. Let's duplicate the first radio inactive one and grab the rectangle from the first input text, go down and paste it, go up to position and change this to 0 and 0, and size to 32 and 32. And we're going to change its name to checkbox. just check that. What's a lowercase checkbox? That's fine. Okay, let's duplicate it 3 more times. Change the default version to the same line style as the radio button above it. Line black, 1 pixel inside. Change this one to selected. Would be checked or selected. The name's up to you. And this one to error. Change the shape to line black inside at 1 pixel, and this one to utility red 1 pixel inside. Okay, now we need a tick. We don't have one, so let's draw one. Let's zoom right in, make sure we're selected in there, grab this, and do a similar thing that we did when we made the arrow one. Go up to edit, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not really this right size, so let's scale it up. And change this to utility green 1 pixel center. Be nice to keep whatever's selected in the radio button and whatever's selected in the checkbox the same color. So I might change this to secondary 2. And this to secondary 1 pixel center. At least we are using a secondary color and it matches the theme. Let's pull back and see if that's going to be okay. Yes. Let's tidy up the points on this. We're going to take this one up to 24 and 10. This can be at 13 and 21. This can come down to 8 and 16. Let's center it vertically and horizontally. Okay, it's 11 pixels high. That's not really going to work. Let's change this to 12. Go back into edit mode. Take that up to 8 and 16. Let's this time try 14 and 22. Okay, that's better. So let's actually change this to 2 pixels. That's better. Let's delete those. Okay, those radio states are done, but we need a radio button with a label next to it. So let's zoom in, duplicate the form radio default, resize it, let's actually move it over, so it's on a column, I'll even move it down here. Make it 2 columns wide, or let's go for 3. Rename this to just form /radio. And let's place the radio default symbol in there. Delete that other circle, come back. Okay, select the symbol we just placed, and in resizing, go left, fix width, and fix height. It's going to copy the label from one of the text fields, place it in there. Make sure it's 16 pixels away. There you go. And it's 4 from the top and 4 from the bottom, so centered vertically. I'm going to resize the text field to 264 wide. And the text field's resizing. Let's keep it like that and see what happens. Let's resize it. Okay, it's staying where it's supposed to be. That's fine. Let's duplicate form/radio. Change it to form/ checkbox. Move it to the top of the stack. Let's go grab radio, place that underneath it. And then place checkbox default there. Delete the radio underneath it. Make sure this is left and fix width and fix height. And the same thing should be happening there. Great. So if we go back out, turn off all of our guides and layout options. Place one of those in here. So form radio. It too can do the different states. So we go and rename this to radio. And this to checkbox. We can change that to an error state. And we can change a checkbox to a selected state. It's all coming together. Let's delete those. Let's go to our main artboards, come up, and let's just do a basic form. Got form, input text, let's make the label first name. Can be the default with placeholder text saying enter your first name, and we'll turn off the error style. Alright, so in the overrides panel, we've got the label at the top, then the input text style between itself and error. Let's duplicate that, move it over here. Change this to last name, and last name over here as well. Let's duplicate that, move it down. Change this to email. Email address. And then maybe let's add a password. We would create a password. All right, let's add a submit button by going symbols, button, button primary, default. This can be at the bottom right or the center, depending on how you want to lay it out. It could be on the left, that's up to you. Okay, to the left of this button, we're going to add Form Radio. Let's align this with the button, and the label can be I agree to the T's and C's. I agree that's better. Change the label on the button to submit. Let's set the radio to selected and then throw in some validation. So let's say somebody entered everything but the password. We could change this placeholder text to a space. We could add in some stars. And then the error is not a valid password. Let's move these two down. Turn off everything, and there you go. You've got a form. Now, I know the way I've done this isn't going to be the way that everybody would have thought they could do this. So I would love some feedback. I was going to take it one step further and make one field that could do this, 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 and this. The select box and the text area. But the overrides for that are going to be very complicated. I could still go that way, but I would prefer not to. In the same sense, I could make a symbol out of the field itself, and then swap that between a normal field and one that's got an error state. There's also success missing. But with forms that are on desktop, you don't really see success. In native apps, you do. So when I get into native apps, we'll come back and revisit these and uplift them so they can visually communicate that they have had something entered, and something like a form on iOS or Android is feeding that back to the user. For now, we're going to save where we are. Come down here to Preview and Commit. Enter forms done. Commit changes. And select Merge Branch at the top right. All right, everything's turned out okay. Yeah, we're ready for the next part, which is going to be iconography. So join me for that one, and I'll see you next time. Bye.